Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. First of all, how dare you, Nvidia? Just as we were settling down for a slightly warmer than usual summer, vacillating randomly between agitated doom scrolling and general malaise, Team Green has to go and launch yet another RTX 50 series GPU, the RTX 5050, resetting the Tech YouTube cooldown timer for bitter rants about video card product positioning and anti-consumer pricing schemes. And while those rants do seem warranted, given that the 5050 is speedrunning through every egregious misstep Nvidia has made thus far with the rest of the RTX 50 family of video cards, I'll agree with anyone who's just sick and tired of this garbage and checked out mentally, particularly given the fact that it does not seem to matter what legitimate complaints the enthusiast community lobs towards Nvidia when their actions and motivations around a launch become clear. Nvidia just does the same thing again next time, usually just a little bit worse, and they continue to profit and dominate the market regardless. So I do have a bunch of other non-RTX 5050 stuff to talk about as well, and then I'm going to go outside and work on my sunburn. Oh, and I'm also going to have a beer today. Cheers. Tech News.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by Lexar. Their SSDs are the ideal storage solution for your next build. The NQ780 is a balanced drive that combines performance with value, offering impressive PCIe Gen 4 speeds as well as a single-sided design, SLC cache, and intelligent power control. The NM1090 Pro features blazing fast PCIe Gen 5 read speeds up to 14,000 megabytes per second, twice as fast as PCIe Gen 4. The NM1090 Pro also has a dual DRAM plus SLC cache and a 6nm controller to minimize heat output even under sustained workloads. Both drives are available in capacities up to 4 terabytes and come with a 5-year warranty. For more on the Lexar NM1090 Pro and NQ780 SSDs, click the sponsor links in the video description. Okay, so the RTX 5050. This GPU launch was not unexpected, but it is the fastest Nvidia has gone through launching pretty much the entire stack of GPUs in a new series, about 6 to 7 months from the 5090 in January down to the 5050, which will be available in July for an MSRP of $250 per the Nvidia product page that went up on Tuesday. Let's churn through the raw stats first. It's based on the GB207-300 die with 2,560 CUDA cores, or 2/3 of what the $300 RTX 5060 ships with, which you'd think would make this easy math, an easy card to price 2/3 of $300, $200, right? Nope, $250 because Nvidia continues apparently to despise entry-level gamers. Those poor people don't need a deal on a GPU anyway, but I'm already distracted. Raw specs. 8 gigs of VRAM was inadequate for the RTX 5060, so the 5050 still having 8 gigs still sucks, and it's made worse by the use of GDDR6 VRAM instead of GDDR7, dropping the memory clock to 20 gigabits per second and reducing the bandwidth by about 30%. Unfortunately, these reduced specs only bought us a 20-watt savings in power too, which means with a 130 watt TDP, the 5050 won't even be able to do the thing that low-end cards can often do: run off the 75 watts natively provided by the PCI Express bus, allowing for a card without a supplemental power connector, which is a boon for upgrading older PCs, but not with the 5050. The memory is on a 128-bit bus still, and the boost clock goes up to 2.57 GHz per Nvidia, and that sums up the specs. So let's move on to the other category that I call other bullshit. Nvidia seems to be continuing their approach to reviews with the 5050 in that there probably won't be any reviews prior to launch, which is similar to what they did with the RTX 5060. Although with the 5060 they did handpick some outlets that basically acted as an extension of Nvidia's marketing team by publishing early curated reviews based on Nvidia restrictions to give the cards a proper glazing. Balanced objective reviews could come later, after those first heavily slanted ones got indexed by Google's SEO engine. The 5050 launch date also remains in flux, with some leakers saying the card will come out on Tuesday, July 1st, despite Nvidia's page clearly stating the second half of July. Now this could mean the card will launch in China before it launches in other regions like the US, and indeed the GeForce China page just says July and not second half, which would be a further indication of snuffed pre-launch reviews. Launch date speculation aside though, there's still plenty of frustration with the RTX 5050 launch thus far, like the fact that the mobile version of the RTX 5050 does have GDDR7 VRAM, while also having the exact same name conveniently, again leading to potential confusion when it comes to looking at performance benchmarks. GDDR7 is more efficient though, which is why Nvidia PR says it was only used for the laptops. Definitely not because it's more expensive and would reduce Nvidia's profit margin though. And of course, no new Nvidia GPU can really be announced without extremely misleading graphs. And I'm more convinced every time graphs like these get posted that the graph making team over at Nvidia is just a bunch of shit posters. They seem to just love to see how much they control the media each time. So here's what they do. First, they obfuscate the testing by rolling all the results together as a suite of 20 modern games. So that way there's no way to determine just from this graph which DLSS settings were used on which game. Then you use the relative performance as a metric, so you don't have to show actual FPS numbers. Relative performance to what, by the way? Nvidia? Finally, you go all in on pretending AI slop-powered multi-frame generation is the same as raw performance, and then here you go. The 5050 will definitely be like twice as fast as the RTX 4060, or maybe 40 to 50 times faster than the 3060, again based on this relative metric. And to top it off, we should ham-fistedly declare that by virtue of this graph, tens of millions of gamers now have 50 times better performance. I guess that assumes that the 50 million plus people currently running a 10 series, 16 series, or 30 series GPU are all going to immediately buy an RTX 5050, while also assuming all that other stuff about the performance and multi-frame generation, but oopsie, Nvidia, some early benchmarks are starting to come out, and per this Furmark database entry, the RTX 5050, even when running well beyond its default boost clock at 2,940 MHz, only scored 1,978 points in Furmark. Now granted, this is a 4K test, but that places it below an RTX 2060, or just above an RTX 3050. And what a surprise that this chart looks starkly different from Nvidia's. Anyway, if you'd like to hear even more ranting about how easy it is to tell that the 5050 is going to suck, there are links to the Gamers Nexus and Hardware Unboxed videos about the 5050 launch announcement in the description below. And now, the rest of the tech news, condensed and dehydrated for consumption on the go in a process we call Tech Briefs. Competition. The tech industry needs it, or at least consumers do, if we want to be able to buy PC hardware for reasonable prices. On the CPU side, after Intel dominated for many years, we cheered on AMD's comeback in the late 2010s. But now Intel has in many ways become the underdog when it comes to gaming PC CPU options, which is why AMD's best gaming CPU, the 9800X3D, is still close to $500, whereas the last gen 7800X3D often saw discounts that put it in the mid $300 range. Now, if Intel has an answer to AMD's 3D V-Cache for PC gaming CPUs, it is likely to debut as part of Nova Lake, despite earlier comments from Intel that this technology would only be used for enterprise chips. It's called BLLC, Big Last Level Cache, or Big Last Line Cache, depending on who you ask, and it would add cache to the base tile of Intel chiplet CPUs that other active tiles mount to. But there are still big questions about latency and the accuracy of this info in general, which was leaked by Hayes on Twitter. Nova Lake will likely use a new motherboard socket too, and is expected to launch in 2026 or 2027. Speaking of PC hardware deals, the RTX 5090 was recently available for below MSRP. There are actually a lot of mid-range GPUs that can be purchased at or even sometimes below MSRP right now, even in the US, but the high-end $1,000 plus cards are still very expensive, typically $400 to $1,000 over their already too high MSRPs. At least that's the case here in the US. Over in Europe though, ComputerBase spotted an MSI Ventus 3X OC RTX 5090 selling for just 2,000 euros at retailer Mind Factory, or about 10% off the 2,229 euro list price. And I suppose if you've talked yourself into a purchase of this card despite the other problems with the 5090, like the notoriously unreliable 12V2x6 power connector, maybe a 2,000 euro GPU sounds reasonable to you. It did to enough people because the discounted 5090 sold out quickly, of course, and the next cheapest option is closer to 2,500 euros now. Or actually, there's one for about 2,300. But let's try to focus on some good news. Overall GPU pricing is trending down, and it's nice to see that gamers who didn't buy high and exercised some self-control were rewarded for their patience. And a reminder, never pay scalper pricing. Speaking of PC hardware competition and Nvidia, Microsoft's AI chip, codenamed Braga. It has been delayed 6 months. I almost didn't include this story because it's about AI, but it's worth noting. First, making AI processors is hard, and even with Google, who you might have heard of, pouring their resources into it for years now, their product is getting a half-year pushback, and it isn't even going to be faster than Nvidia Blackwell when it does launch. I find some value in following this side of the hardware space because of the whole competition thing. It's well known that Nvidia makes a lot more profit from a TSMC wafer full of AI GPUs than they do from a TSMC wafer full of GeForce gaming GPUs, but just as gamers benefit from a competitor like AMD offering theoretically compellingly priced alternatives to Nvidia GeForce products, ramped up competition on the AI hardware side could impact Nvidia's outsized profit margins in that market, compelling them to balance their chip output more favorably for gamers. Not that Google is doing that with a 6-month delay or anything, but hopefully my point still stands. And yes, this is very speculative, but in 2025, you kinda gotta dig deep to find those silver linings. Speaking of hardware delays, the Cooler Master NR200P V3 was originally teased at CES in January, but it has finally made it to market and can be purchased for $150 on Amazon as of Friday. It looks pretty sleek with its CNC machined aluminum side panels and 280mm radiator support, and while it's not the smallest SFF chassis at 18.6 liters, it does support large triple slot GPUs and comes with a PCIe Gen 5 riser cable. Contrastingly, to highlight some early criticisms of the case, we have the SFFPC subreddit, where it has been determined that the case feels weird, and that they made it ugly with no significant change or innovation. Designers were high? Further proof that if you think anything is cool, just go on Reddit and someone will be there just hating the shit out of it. But I do agree that the minimalist Cooler Master logo without the text looked better, and practically if the case didn't use a GPU riser cable, it would be better for air cooling options. Also, I hope they do another Max version with a power supply and all-in-one liquid cooler pre-installed. If you've ever been paranoid that your PC does stuff on its own while you're not looking, maybe skip this next story. MSI has debuted a set of Toy Story themed limited edition PC hardware, including a Buzz Lightyear RTX 5070 gaming trio, a Woody inspired motherboard that is disappointingly Intel based, would have liked if that was AM5, a case designed after the Space Crane claw machine, an 850 watt power supply powered by Emperor Zurg that goes pretty hard if you ask me, and even a 360mm all-in-one liquid cooler featuring the Pizza Planet little green aliens. 3 eyes, 3 fans, it just makes sense. What doesn't make sense is these being exclusive to Taiwan. Last I saw, Toy Story took place in America. How could you tease us like that, MSI? And these will only be sold as a bundle or via system integrators, meaning that about an $80,000 NT or $2,700 USD investment is required for a full system using these parts, which, despite their kind of random toy-based color scheme, all kind of work together given that Toy Story theme. Once these sell out, they'll be gone for good, so book your flight to Taipei ASAP. Lament with me, my brothers. The Windows blue screen of death is dead. When a Windows 11 update later this summer rolls out, the sad face and blue background we have all grown to know and somewhat fear will be replaced by a hollow, meaningless void that will echo back the emptiness of our souls as we scramble to think when we last saved that project we were working on. Realistically though, the B-SOD is just getting a facelift, its second in 40 years or so, and with a black screen instead of blue, the beloved B-SOD acronym remains viable. It will also provide both a stop code and list the driver responsible for the crash, which should help IT with their rapid response problem-solving procedures, but chances are you'll still do a double take the first time it happens to you. And a quick side note, the funniest blue screen that I ever experienced actually crashed out as it was trying to write this sentence, so all it gave me was a sad face that said you. Rounding things out today, we have sales. 2 of them that might be of interest to PC gamers and builders, starting with the Steam summer sale that went live sometime after the solstice and goes until July 10th. Opinions seemed mixed on how good the sale actually is. I've been hearing that games often go on sale at random times for less than the seasonal sale discounts on Steam, so if you have your eye on a specific title, it's best to add it to your wish list and then just be patient. Still though, many titles are 20 to 50% off or more, so it's worth a browse. At Borderlands 3 for $3. And then next week, Amazon's made-up Prime Day holiday happens, and since Amazon made it up, they can also make it longer. So Prime Day is going to last like almost a week this year, July 7th to 11th. Amazon conjured up Prime Day from nothing in 2015 to boost sales during an otherwise low sales point of the year, so it's just a big made-up thing, and I'd recommend buying nothing if you're generally happy and content otherwise. At least, that's what I'm gonna do. But there you have it guys, tech news for the week, and if you liked it, click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all of the articles that I talked about today are linked in the video's description if you're interested in reading more, and you can check out my store at paulshardware.net for high quality merchandise like t-shirts and hoodies and beer sets and more. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you next week.